Hola, amigos!
Hello, friends, and welcome to another issue of PorterGraphic. I'm Brian Mann.
Brian Mitchell.
Eric Mitchell.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing
Had
good.
some good comics this week.
We are back again with more comics.
And beer.
And beer.
And beer.
Speaking of that,
Yeah, we could have a breakfast beer.
we're going to have a breakfast IPA right now from Southern Prohibition Brewing out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. This is Devil's Harvest Breakfast IPA.
Have we checked the expiration date on this one?
Oh, stop it.
When I saw the sticker,
I know,
thought the same
immediately.
thing, too.
That's one I brought back from Memphis. And to be fair, I brought back about 3 of them. And
There's one left?
there's one left.
What happened to those, Brian?
If it stays in the fridge too long, sometimes...
I feel like there's like a little egg timer in there, and if it goes off, drink.
Yes.
I'm drinking you.
Well, I mean, I don't want it to go out of date. We're worried about that.
Did we ever get a confirmation on that expiration date there?
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't see anything.
Smells
4.9%. Like I said, it's a breakfast IPA, which I'm pretty sure means they threw some bacon and eggs and pancakes.
No,
in.
Just gives you permission to day drink.
I think what really happened was they said, what's going to wake people up in the morning? That.
Yeah.
Like, you want a little hair of the dog. Grab that. Because that hits you in the face.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's like orange juice gone wrong.
It's like instead of...
Angry orange juice.
No. What, it's vodka for mimosa?
No, it's champagne.
Instead of champagne, they just poured in like a pale ale.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would work. Or would it fizz over because of the acidity in the... Like, would it overcarbonate because of the acidity in the...
Wait,
In the
to
orange
put an
juice?
IPA in orange juice?
Yeah.
I don't think orange juice is carbonated.
Right, but the acidity.
Okay.
But the beer's carbonated.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Well, so champagne is carbonated as well.
Yeah, but champagne isn't made of yeast and hops.
I'm not a winemaker, but I know something has to turn that grape sugar into alcohol, and I bet it's yeast.
It really doesn't matter.
Tune in next time for PorterGraphic science experiments where we...
Dude, we should do that.
No.
Write that down. We're going to get an IPA and some orange juice.
That's how Flubber was made. Robin Williams? Okay, no, fuck. No? Robin Williams? Flubber?
I know what
Oh,
you're
that's
talking
right. You don't
about,
watch
yeah.
Disney movies. I forgot.
Moving on. Moving on.
All right. Well, I mean...
So, Absolute Carnage #2. I think it's telling that this is the first book that I picked up and read from my second week's books.
Yeah.
I put everything else aside. This is the one I was most excited about. And then
That's so far out there, like for people that don't
know me, yes.
Yeah. Like for you to be excited over a Venom and Spider-Man
And
event.
Carnage,
Yeah.
yes. So then it gets even crazier. If you flip to the first page, where he's talking about, I'm the red right hand. Like, no, that's got to mean something else. What's the exact?
Let's see. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I am the red right hand of the King in Black.
So I thought, wait a minute, what are the odds that we could be talking about the same thing? Where I could geek out and combine two of my new favorite things. Peaky Blinders theme song is all about the red right hand.
Yeah.
So I Googled it, and that is absolutely the first thing that came up was the theme song to Peaky Blinders. And then about the third reference down, it talks about Milton's Paradise Lost. But that also in that article referenced the Peaky Blinders song. So I don't know, just nothing that has anything to do with the comic, but it just made me geek out a little bit.
For sure.
Well, all the descriptions on that page were pretty fantastic. I am the gore emperor of 1,000 dead stars. I am a new colossus of bleeding red Megadeth. I mean, I am the end of the world as you blank blank know it. So yeah, and I feel like a drink.
So that brings my second point in, where we're bleeping stuff out. So I want to get you guys' thought on this. Would you be behind a mature version of Absolute Carnage where you just go ahead and throw the right words in, and then have like a censored version to where, because you don't want to lose your young readers. This is a great story. You want to share it with everybody. What do you guys think? Should there be 2 copies, 2 different versions?
I don't think they'll ever do it.
Well, I don't think they'll ever do it, but what do you think? Should they do that?
I'd be okay with it. I think that would be pretty cool if it was like a director's cut one, and it, right out front would let people know that. Kind of like,
a DC Black Label or Vertigo.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, if you see a 4-letter bleep word, it could be 5 or 6 different things. And so, I don't know, it kind of takes the mysteriousness away of it if the author is telling you. Because, like, what if it's shit and you say fuck? It's like, I
just feel like I'm an adult. I don't need to see bleeping
for sure.
out.
For sure.
But I also understand that maybe I don't necessarily want my kids seeing that.
Right.
Just kind of an interesting thought when I saw that, because it took me out of it just a little bit. I mean, there are things that should have taken me out of it much further into the book.
I think there's a world where that happens, but I don't think they'd ever do it like issue by issue, but they would do like the whole run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that would be plausible and maybe should be done, especially if there's enough interest in it.
In a trade paperback form.
Or like
when they reprinted the Mr. Miracle director's cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you had something to say and I jumped on you.
No. I was just going to talk about, I don't know that I need the author, like, it's an expletive, but
yeah.
Like if the author is thinking one word and you're reading another,
it could impact how you read the content.
My opinion. Yeah. So you have to be careful there, but done in the right way, I think it would definitely work.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things, and Eric prefaced it that it's crazy. This is the book that I read first this week, because I historically don't really dig these characters. And when I first started reading this, I kind of compared it to the Metal Batman and had to get over that before I could really enjoy it. So Venom Wings. There's a dude in me that hates Venom Wings. And I quickly killed him and buried him in the backyard because it worked.
I guess
we've been subject to that already in the Venom.
We've been subject to a lot.
So it wasn't completely...
No.
But to me, Spider-Man's reaction to it, the one really long run, it's, what is going on right now? I hate all of it.
Yeah.
And there's no spaces.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
And
I really like that.
Like that made it all worth it.
That made it work for me. I was like, Venom Wings. Oh, come on now. And then Spidey's reaction to it, like, okay, this works and it works well.
I didn't realize that Spider-Man could run out of web fluid.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
Well, because there's, I mean, he does make it. I mean, he's not a mutant. That was a big thing with, wasn't the Tobey Maguire? Wasn't it? It more made him a mutant. Like it was actually coming.
Yeah, it came from him.
Okay, yeah.
So there was some controversy then with like when they first released that. Was is that really making him into a mutant? Not, but yeah. I mean, traditionally he's always
got his web slingers.
It's because he's smart and figured out how to create his own web fluid. So
I don't know. It just I had never, and like I don't really read Spider-Man all that much, but I just never seen, because I always
him
thought,
refilling his web shooters,
or he's put in a position where he has no more web fluid. You know.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things, and maybe it's just because like one of my first introductions to Spider-Man was those movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I thought like the whole backstory was he got bit by a radioactive spider and it mutated his DNA, and he gained like
he could Klingon stuff and
hyper reflexes and
spidey senses.
Yeah, I mean,
but it didn't allow him to just generate webs.
I mean, there's a world apparently where it does, but
yeah.
But originally it never did.
It didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I think originally it was always him.
I remember it like people stealing his web shooters. I mean, those were storylines, and
plus, I mean, traditionally, when like if they were, I mean, the web would have been coming like out of his ass or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were really making him like,
hang on, bad guys.
like
Could you just imagine someone easier.
Like maybe Marvel
could you imagine
at
someone
that point
swinging from their butthole? I mean, seriously,
we've just digressed so quickly.
I don't think you're the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man anymore.
I mean, he farts and he sticks himself to the wall.
Oh God!
Wow. So I think the biggest thing out of this issue probably was learning that Dylan is the Codex. The Annie, the mom, was not in that burial ground in issue number 1, and so we realize that Carnage is gonna at some point be coming for Dylan as well.
Well, and then also Miles Morales seems to get
effed up,
get murdered, maybe, or at least controlled for a while.
Well, and the thing is, I don't even like Miles Morales, but man, do you feel bad for him just in a swarm of carnage.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I will, and this is where I can just real quickly interject. Like, Miles has his own, part of absolute carnage. This was really kind of a disappointment because it's exactly what you get in absolute carnage, just from kind of it's more pages of the Scorpion and him arguing and fighting before the symbiotes, the Carnage symbiotes show up and stuff. So you get more from it, but I mean it literally ends exactly where like Absolute Carnage number 2 ended. So it was like, why did I need to pick this up? This was
because they ran a good PR campaign and got you to buy it.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, when we talk about Venom later, yes, it's not what you get in Absolute Carnage, but
no,
it's just a quick little side story to it. So
yeah. But speaking of that Venom,
is that where we're going? Okay.
Yeah,
So Venom number 17.
Yeah. So who do you think Sleeper is?
I don't know, and I feel like I probably should, but I don't know enough about Venom stuff.
I don't either.
Like I read it a little bit, I guess, in the 90s, but never to the point where I learned all the other symbiotes that are running around there. And, and all. So,
and then it was like, what did it say? Like, we are family or something like that?
Yeah, we're family. So I don't know who he is. I mean, I'm sure we could look it up and find out, but
yeah.
So basically all this, Venom number 17 was, in Absolute Carnage 2, the Maker calls Eddie and lets him know, hey, Dylan's the Codex, and so then this is just basically the scenes that happen like
After
right
that.
after. I mean, this is almost all there at the maker's little
which
headquarters.
is a different Earth's Reed Richards.
Yes. Yeah.
What?
Yep. He's an evil version of Reed Richards.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. So,
Look at me, dude. It's not a book I'm reading.
I'm just, just go on.
Are we ready to? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if you're done talking. So, I've started rereading the X series, just because I'm wanting to make sure I haven't missed anything. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. This was House of X2, but on the timeline here, it gives the Mariah's her timelines. So how many times she's been reincarnated. If you look at the black line, and it goes all the way through, that's what we're seeing here for each one of these. That's the line.
That is really cool.
Life 10 is what is being shown in this.
So then the other ones, then the powers of X was Life 9. I bet it was the red. It's a red arrow. I mean, I don't have any of those right in front of me right now, but I bet almost for sure
that lines
red
up with
arrow
that.
Goes. That is.
Isn't it fun finding these little
really
Easter eggs in here?
It's insane.
I'm just so intrigued too by the missing life. Life number 6, is not on there.
Well, and neither is
point
11 because they, what's her name? The
Destiny.
Destiny, yes. Says if you do everything right, there could be an 11th life.
And and so that.
And I. Yeah. So, you're right. There's no 6 and there's no 11.
And when you read through the, what was it, House of X2, when it goes through all of her lives, it skips from 5 to 7.
Wow.
So there's something there for sure.
I wonder if the 6th books will be her 6th life. Because it ends at 6.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so well done.
Yeah.
So before I put the book up, House of X3, in looking through this timeline here, I misread it the first time through, and it was very confusing. So basically, they're talking about the Sentinel to Nimrod progression. Mm-hmm. And when you get down to the Nimrod, which also has that black thing going through, a Nimrod is an end state. Nano Sentinel construct. And the first time I read Nano Sentinel construct Mariah X. And I was like, what? But has learned while an emergent AIs are unavoidable, an anti-mutant Nimrod is not. It's a product of particular intent and manufactured for a purpose. And if you look here, it says the Nimrod is a pure Nano Sentinel construct, anti-mutant, and adaptive. So basically, to get there, you have to have a human being that you put the nanos in, and then it basically turns the human being into a machine. So if you have to have a human to get Nimrod, and Mariah has learned it doesn't necessarily have to be anti-mutant, I wonder what human will get infected with the nanobots and become Nimrod. If they can't, find a way of destroying Nimrod, then maybe somebody steps in and who's not anti-mutant and becomes Nimrod.
Okay.
And my thought might be Professor X. Because he has such a strong, telepathic that maybe he can keep part of his mind as the machines take him over and doesn't become anti-mutant.
That's definitely a possibility.
Who knows?
Yeah,
but somebody does.
Yeah.
So one of the things I liked about this book specifically is we kind of ramp up the action a little bit. The first 2 or 3 books from both have kind of been like political dramas. We've been a lot of conversating, not a lot of doing. But in House of X3, we finally get to see a little action, which continues on into 4.
So I think Magneto's speech at the beginning about immortality is pretty fantastic.
In retrospect, it's apropos.
The righteous can never truly die. You'd have to be forgotten. I wrote down a couple of things because it was so good and so ominous too.
Oh, absolutely, and that's like page 1 or 2 that you're getting that speech. Yeah. You're like, okay, this isn't going to go well. What do you guys think? But before we just get too deep into the books, what's more satisfying as a creative team? Rebooting a franchise that's already around, and I think the X-Men have been kind of flailing about trying to find their way for a while, or creating a whole new character. If you were a creative team, which would you rather do?
I mean, it'd really depend on what character.
I mean, if I could be Bob Kane and Bill Finger and create Batman and have that be my legacy, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, but the chances of that are really slim now.
Yeah. I mean, it would. I mean, I think it would be really fun to create your own and have it succeed. But man, the odds are so stacked against you.
Who was the last person
lasting, a long, long time?
I mean, who was the last person that created something completely new and has been successful? I mean, Robert Kirkman's like the only name that comes to mind. And I mean, that was The Walking Dead. That become wildly successful.
Yeah, that's more of an ensemble cast, but I see where you're not creating a Wolverine or a Batman or a Superman.
Yeah.
That's more of a concept. That's like Saga. You're
right.
Creating a world and a universe, and that's important too.
I think it's a lot harder to do that, which is why you see them succeed now. But I don't know that you can make one single character anymore, because like everything's pretty much been played out superhero wise. Like, I mean,
it's
Jessica Jones might be the last.
It was played out. That's funny because I wrote that down as an example because Bendis took Guardians, off the scrap heap, and brought them back, and he created Jessica Jones.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to see which as a creator, which one.
I think it would really depend on what you're given to resurrect. Like if you're given Batman, it's probably not going to work out for you.
Well, it worked out for Frank Miller because Batman was stuck in
campy land.
Well, and just 70s.
Yeah,
this is what we do, and reinvented that character. To me, I haven't read X-Men in forever,
right?
And now I'm rereading the series again. I like it so much. That's crazy to me.
It is very, very crazy.
Yeah, if you knew you were going to take someone else's work and do this good of a job with it, I'd almost say I'd want to rebirth a known franchise.
So are we saying that the outcome is positive either direction?
Well, I'm just
which one's more satisfying?
Which one's more satisfying to you as a creative force?
But are we assuming that the outcome is a good outcome?
Yeah,
definitely than resurrecting something, because you get to bring a past fan base and dredge up a new fan base, and they get to commingle, and just to foster that and see that grow, I think would be way better than trying to start up a new audience. The only thing with a new audience is they're going to grow with you and with the character, so that could also be.
And there's no preconceived notions of,
sure,
well, Professor X wouldn't do that. That's not the Professor X I know, because I kind of had that in this book. This is a different Professor X than I remember. I mean, not driving around in the X-wheeled wheelchair. He just acts differently, talks differently.
His attitude is different.
Yeah, he's a different person.
And is that? I mean, at first I wondered, is that actually Professor X with, since his head is always covered and stuff with the cerebro, but is this a different Professor X solely because of what he has seen
went through
Mariah? I mean, I feel like that's probably what we are supposed to get out of it, is he is changed because he saw it, just like Magneto. I mean, Magneto immediately joined up with Xavier there in whichever one that was.
Powers 3?
Yeah. After he saw everything that she could show. So
I don't know. I thought it was interesting because I know there's people out there who could say, well, that's not my Professor X, and be up in arms about it. But I'm certainly fine with everything they're doing in this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing is like if you really tried to have a conversation with somebody and they were like, this is not my Professor X, I would be like, yeah, I don't know that you can really have that opinion. Like, you can say this is not my X-Men, but like Charles Xavier is like one character in a book that features an ensemble of characters.
But I mean, you can still have that opinion. You have the right to that opinion. It might not be the right opinion.
Well, but I'm not saying like the opinion is wrong. It's just like it's hard to justify that even like as a conversation. Like, if you want to talk about Batman, that's a single character. You can say, I really liked Grant Morrison's run on Batman, or I really liked Frank Miller's Batman, or...
But I'm not talking about all the X-Men. I'm just talking about Professor X. I don't know. I don't understand the hair you're splitting.
But I mean, like, if you're like... I really like how Charles Xavier is portrayed in the House of X, Powers of X series. Like, what is the rebuttal to that? I liked him in Days of Future Past, or I liked him in the Dark Phoenix saga.
Everything I've seen prior to these books in the years and years and years of X-Men.
Just, I feel like without giving specific like writer contributions, like it's just that. That's just
it's not the way he's been portrayed. That's the only point I'm making.
Sure. Yeah, that's obvious. Yeah.
So in this book, I mean, basically, the team goes off trying to destroy the Master Mold. They lock onto the forge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then things start to go pretty poorly pretty quick, and you're left at kind of a cliffhanger where the ship explodes.
Yeah, Blackbird has exploded, and they already know they didn't bring the flowers with them
to go back.
There's no.
It's a one-way trip.
Yeah. But at this point, you're thinking, okay, there's got to be some ships on there. They can still make it out. It's not that bad yet, right?
Yeah. And then we flip to House of X 4, and it is that bad.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of this one, because
you did some research.
Oh, I've been trying to just devour every. I gotta find the page.
I get it. Yeah.
They talk about the lights.
The lights,
which were,
I don't know,
like a team of. I hope I haven't got them confused.
It's okay.
But it was William Stryker.
Oh, yeah. It's in that one, but it's
further in.
Yeah, here.
Okay,
I can find it for you.
I wrote them down. I just was gonna. But it was some names I didn't recognize, but I definitely recognized William Stryker. He was Weapon X, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wanda Maximoff.
Yeah, that was the one that surprised me.
Old Scarlet Witch.
Oh, yeah, I think it is right there, isn't it?
So humans that committed major
atrocities.
Crimes. Yeah.
And then we're actually right there on it, dude. It's right here in the middle.
Okay. And then Bolivar Trask, and he was Sentinels.
In charge of the Sentinels, yeah.
Well, and then one of the things that I really liked is just like, if you're talking about in terms of like all-out ground wars, it's like if you take like current United States It's about 380 million people. That's still like under 10% of the world population. It's like 4%. You're talking about the mutant population, like currently is what, point a bunch of zeros?
Oh yeah, and like a,
I mean,
2.9 or so. Yeah.
So the chances of success are infinitesimally small. And we start to see what happens when you go up against a task with infinitesimally small chances of success.
well, and you have to think how this started out was Xavier's like, I got this vaccine.
Yeah.
Or 3 different vaccines, one to extend human life 5 years, one to cure disease.
Diseases of the mind.
It's what, super smart or something like that? No. Oh, Christ.
But basically, he's given an olive branch saying, guys, we're not trying to take you over. Even Magneto in that same first issue is like, look, mutant forces have never occupied a land. We've never started a war. We just want to go off on our island and do our own thing.
Yeah.
And here's some gifts to humanity. Let us just peace out. And then we're here and we're having mutant genocide. Yeah. That's kind of a crazy leap.
So,
all right, before we go
go ahead.
Oh yeah, let's
try
next
that.
beer of the pod is Hop Device IPA from Revolver Brewing Company.
Yeah, so I picked it up at local Constantino's, but apparently it's a brewery out of Texas.
Oh yeah, Granbury, Texas.
Yeah,
5.2%. So,
but it's a hazy IPA, and I know we like the hazy IPAs, so I figured,
Yes, sir.
why the hell not?
I'm talking is thirsty work.
Oh yeah.
What
happened? Just drip it all over.
So I really enjoyed, and it was just a short interchange between Cyclops and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Where the foreshadowing from the last issue of, hey, this is not going to be an
Bad
easy
shit's
mission,
gonna happen.
and Wolverine's just like, hey Red, it's going to get bad, and then Nightcrawler's super hurt.
First off, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Just quick.
Yeah,
You Night Stalker's one of your favorites.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah, that's what I meant. How do you think of the way he's drawn in this?
I'm super okay with it.
Yeah, me too.
I have a problem I'll talk about with Dark Phoenix coming up, but
oh boy.
But I loved the Wolverine and Nightcrawler discussion because
that page was
when I first started reading X-Men, and I can't remember whether it was classic X-Men or the Uncanny Run, but I remember Wolverine and Nightcrawler out, training at the X Mansion, and at the end, Wolverine's got a 6-pack of beer and a cigar, which really made me think: is Wolverine just like the working man's hero? I mean, if you think about it, he's pretty rough around the edges. I mean, you could see him on a construction site or something. I mean, he's not a bat millionaire with gadgets. I mean, he's just a dude who solves things pretty much with his fists.
Yeah, I mean, he's a loner.
Yeah. Well, every time, I mean, if he goes to Canada and he's getting a job, it's out there cutting wood,
lumberjack,
or he's like on a fishing boat, or some hard physical manual labor where,
Which reminds me, we need to talk about so the two of them interacting there kind of brought up old memories, and the fact that they know they're going on a suicide mission. The whole mission's gone south, but in particular, those two aren't coming back.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, those were some really powerful pages.
I don't know about Logan.
He looked pretty effed up.
He's looked pretty effed up before.
Yeah. But Nightcrawler for sure ain't coming back. I mean,
he's not coming back.
Just immediately.
Scott's not coming back. Were we talking about that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I thought we were talking about it. Yeah, I mean, it's
it's all gone.
So it looks like to just throw everybody on the timeline, they're trying to blow the docking collars. You have
And
a
they've
giant
gotten-
sentinel head, you know, as this master mold.
Right.
They're blowing the docking collars to send it shooting off into the sun. Three of them get blown. Nightcrawler and Wolverine, you know, Nightcrawler teleports him out into space where, I mean, they're immediately just, the sun is just vaporizes Nightcrawler. Wolverine,
and he knows it too.
Yeah, they know it. Yeah.
I don't know. I still think, I don't know.
It was you know, like you texted, it was a brutal issue.
Oh yeah.
So
because even after all of that, you think you're like, all right, Scott's got a plan.
Yeah,
he's gonna catch some kind of escape pod, get to Jean.
Yeah,
they're gonna. I mean, they're still gonna be floating in space, but they've somehow survived, and that doesn't happen either. Scott's taken out by the Prime Sentinel and the other human, the doctor that's kind of in charge of
whose husband blew up himself and the ship last issue. And this is what I was talking about with the Professor X piece, because you know they're like, hey, what do we do? Hey, what do we do? He's like, you know, complete the mission.
Yeah,
knowing that these are his kids, sending them off to die. It was a very emotional issue. Something else I did.
Well,
go ahead.
So you know, rarely do I have emotional responses to comics. But like when I got to here, and then I kept flipping, and I kept flipping back and forth because I was like, did I miss a page? Are they stuck together? What did you guys think about the specific, like, just abrupt end of this comic?
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very out of form.
I didn't think it was going past this right here.
Yeah.
You know, after Professor X is thinking no more. But it was I liked this too. I mean,
that right. I mean, that's a powerful image. It's just yeah.
It's pretty fantastic.
Good
and
book.
It makes it hard for me to read some of the other comics this week and have anything but you're inferior.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
and it's maybe not fair to them.
It's not, but
then be that good, because I mean that's the bar right now for me.
Yeah, but I mean this might be a once in a generational book.
Doesn't have to be though. It's you can tell it was like War of the Realms. You could tell. I mean, he planted the seeds and cultivated his timeline and his worldview of what Thor was going to go through. And I feel like that's the same thing here with the X-Men. Is when you've got all this ancillary. I mean,
oh, for sure, dude. Yeah, I know.
A flippin' alphabet.
Yeah, alphabet cipher.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, I used that Rosetta Stone and decoded these two pages. And it is, I mean, it's nothing big, but next it will be done. And then the next page is then something sinister.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But
it will be done. That feels like a Professor X kind of thing. But
now, and that was in House of X3, so it will be done probably means this, and then maybe the next one is Powers of X 5, and we'll get Mr. Sinister.
Nice.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah. So here's my only my one concern with this, and I'm kind of on both sides of it right now. So obviously in House of X4, and we've known about this for a while, you know, after the House of X and Powers of X wrap up, you know, we are getting kind of that rebirth of
all the
X-Men titles. I'm almost certain. I mean, all these covers and stuff. I mean, they almost have to be red herrings, because they're not going to give you
not going to give it away. Yeah,
that happens in House of X or Powers of X at all. So I'm trying to like just look past the covers and realize that, I mean, they have some really good, I don't know if you guys have looked at the writers for these. They look so.
I saw a few of them.
So Hickman is continuing the actual X-Men book himself, which is
the first story arc is called Dawn of X.
Yeah. So then Gary Dugan is doing Marauders, so Dead Rabbit, Savage Avengers. Jonathan Hickman is also doing New Mutants. Benjamin Percy, who's done the Wolverine podcast, Green Arrow, is on X-Force. And then Brian Edward Hill has the one that has Laura and Psylocke and Cable in it.
The only bring back Excalibur.
And Excalibur, yeah. Teenie Howard is the Excalibur author, which is the only one I don't really know.
And that's got Rogue in it.
Yeah, Rogue, Gambit, and Jubilee.
I really like this. I like the art style that they're going with there.
Yeah, I do like the throwback old school.
Yeah, Wolverine and the New Mutants looks potentially
I'm excited. I'm excited with the authors that they're going, because we know we like Brian Edward
Hill. Yeah.
So this is the only name that kind of bugs me.
Well,
is the Ed Brisson,
is along with
he did that old Dead Man Logan, which it was.
I haven't been real.
And then he did the Old Man
on any.
The latter part of that Old Man Logan
that I railed about.
And the thing is, I'm not huge on the New Mutants anyway, so that would, if I'm not going to pick one up, that's probably going to be that one. I'm definitely in for the Jonathan Hickman X-Men, and I'm at least going to give the others a chance.
Isn't there something else on the others? What is?
It's just the end.
Oh, it's the end covers.
House of X6 and Powers of X6. The inevitable future and the inevitable truth. Which, God, that's just going to be.
And this is Moira, right?
Yes.
I bet Powers of X6 is her sixth life. And I bet it's got some huge revelation.
Is that one of the red?
Yeah, it would be one of the red ones. It would be the last red one. Wait. Open this up.
Okay.
To the chapter list in the front.
No, it's back there. Yeah.
It's Powers of X6 red.
The final one.
Yeah, and it's the
red.
Final one.
And it's red. Yeah.
And it's red. Which means it's in the past.
So, more thoughts on this. Number one, I think one of the things that makes this so good is, unlike Doomsday Clock, that is literally taken 14 years to come out, and you have to need a primer in between issues to catch up to where you were. This is out every week. And you are immersed in the story every week, and I think that's important. The second thing is, yes, it is a Watchmen level event.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you think about this as once in a generation, then nothing's going to touch this.
Because to me, when you first said that, and you're like, this might be blasphemous. Yeah. I mean, in reading this last week, I'm like, yeah. It's
in terms of just sheer extra content on top of what's on the actual pages. You know, from the infographics to the letters and stuff that have been through all of them. Like, when was the last time we've seen that? Watchmen.
Yeah. To the point where you're digging through, finding Easter eggs.
Yes.
I mean, heck, I went on quite the Easter egg hunt on this.
Yeah, I mean, it just...
The other thing... So, I mean, I feel like this might be a good spot to jump into Dark Phoenix. And I don't want to beat it up or talk too much about it. I had a couple of thoughts. I mean, it's not my favorite in the First Class series.
Is that even what we're calling it now?
Well, I mean, it's that universe.
Yeah.
And
okay.
The character shuffling around has always bothered me in the X-Men movies. But I think this series has made it way more palatable to me. Because now I can look upon that movie as maybe that was just one of the failed lives of, Mariah Taggart. Because we have people that weren't really involved in the Dark Phoenix saga in there. I don't know.
Like the actual
like Mystique, wasn't around. I think Cyclops, or not Cyclops, I can't think it is Colossus was around for that. I mean, it was the changing of the characters in and out. One of the biggest problems I had with the movie was the casting. I really don't like their Cyclops. I really don't like their Nightcrawler. He's gangly and looks weird, and
he looked like lanky and shit.
Yeah. But when he turned into a badass, I really enjoyed that. I mean, when he just had enough and just starts bamf, bamf, bamf.
I mean, because that felt like Nightcrawler.
Yes.
I mean, like...
Well, but I mean, he was... I feel like in the comic he was also kind of a pacifist. He wasn't really stabbing people with...
No, I think he is a pacifist.
But in the movie, man, he'd had enough, and he starts
wasn't
shanking
his origins
a brother.
like from he was like some fucking Nazi?
No, he was in the circus, and then I think Mystique is his mom.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's canon or movie because it gets
in
just
the comics.
blurred.
I think it is, but not in the. I don't think.
What can't be in the movie, or at least not in these movies.
No. And that's my other problem is I feel like some of the casting was more about a popularity contest and less about acting ability, because I don't think Jennifer Lawrence or Sansa Stark, either one particularly shone in that movie. I wasn't impressed with either one of them in there.
I don't really have that much trouble with the casting. I just don't think the villain was good at all. Like I mean, if I'm supposed to believe this is some kind of alien race, and then really all we're doing is just fighting humans. I mean, how cheap is that to be like, oh yeah, they just look like humans now, so now we'll just fight humans. We don't have to have an alien race. I mean, that's. I mean,
you actually see them be aliens for like what, like those 5 or 6 seconds in a forest, and then it's over.
Yep.
You know, but I mean, Jessica Chastain's character, the main lady or whatever, she's like, she shouldn't even be there. Like, she doesn't even need to be there. Like, Jean is supposed to be more powerful than any mutant on the planet at that time.
She's an Omega level.
She's like plus.
And they talk about it in X too. I think it was just her telepathy is Omega level. I'm not sure.
Right, but when she's in her Dark Phoenix, like, she is like the most powerful mutant ever.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is like, if she's supposed to be more powerful than anyone, why do you need this ancillary third-party character? Because
it's not a great story. Cool. So my question is, of the X-Men movies, do you guys really think the X-Men movies are good? And I'm talking about all of them. Or are we just in love with the fact of who is playing the characters? Like, I can't think of a better Wolverine than Hugh Jackman.
For sure.
I didn't think I could think of a better Professor X than Patrick Stewart, but then you've got
James McAvoy.
First Magneto.
Ian McKellen.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Fassbender. I mean, so you've got fantastic actors playing those characters, and I like the portrayal of most of their characters. I don't know that I'm in love with any of the movies that much.
Stories, I think, is where they kind of failed a little bit, and just
so like
that whole first series too.
We're talking about X1, X2, and
with the Bryan Singer,
The Last Stand.
You know, that was very early in the superhero movie genre, and they were afraid to go
put them in their uniforms.
Yeah, they were afraid to go too far because they didn't think people would embrace that. Yeah. And then Marvel comes around, and obviously we have Captain America in a Captain America suit, and so they need Kevin Feige, and well, now they have Kevin Feige. So at some point, hopefully, we get a really good X-Men movie.
Here's the only problem that I have with the X-Men is I think you can't do X-Men movies because you're talking about a school, you're talking about day-to-day life, and then you have to cram all of that and a mission and some bad guy into 2.5 hours.
I think you absolutely can do that.
I don't think you should. I think you need to put this on as a television show.
See, I thought, and that's not a bad idea because then you have much more room to develop it.
Disney Plus. I mean, why would you not? It's not a bad idea.
I don't think you need X-Men movies.
I liked First Class.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a complete departure from the X-verse. But I enjoyed it. It was like, that's a good retelling.
I did not
fresh
go
take
out.
on it.
I think it's the only one I didn't go see in the movie theaters. Just waited for it to come to video, and I was like, "Oh, this is." Actually
I for sure didn't see it in the movie
really
theaters,
good.
And I was like, "Oh well, I'll give it a try." I haven't been real high on the X-Men movies, and I was blown away. So, and what I couldn't understand is why could I get behind it then, and now I'm struggling to get behind it now.
Well.
And I think it was partially the story wasn't great.
Days of Future Past, when they kind of melded them both together.
Yeah.
That kind of messed with stuff because then you're like, why are, if you're a person that knows nothing about X-Men and your first movie is X-Men Days of Future Past, you have absolutely no idea what's going on.
And I think you just touched on something. If you know nothing about it, I think that's the way they make these movies is for people who know nothing about it. Instead of
talking about the current Marvel?
Just the X-Men movies. Okay. They go about it as we've got to make a movie and explain everything, just in case somebody doesn't know it. Make a good movie and you could make it say just Mutant Massacre. Just plop in that one timeline. You don't have to give any explanations and just run with it and make a good movie and people will figure it out. And you will satisfy the comic book nerds, and you will satisfy the people who know nothing about it if you tell a good story.
Yeah. So, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, my favorite Marvel movie is 2008 Iron Man. Let's see, I was 17 in 2008.
And you knew nothing about Iron Man. I
didn't know who the fuck Iron Man was.
I'm a comic book nerd at that point. I still didn't know who I never read Iron Man.
What I knew was...
I knew he had a drinking problem, and his name was Tony Stark, and that's about as much
I knew that the cokehead dude who'd been in jail and all that, Oh, yeah, dude, you don't know about that? Like, Robert Downey Jr. was, in jail.
Oh, okay. Well, I was... I didn't know who you were talking about when you say the cokehead, and I'm like...
That was the casting. They were like, Robert Downey Jr. is going to play...
They won't cuss in the comics, but there's...
And I'm like, the dude who did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? Like, what?
Yeah.
And it's like...
I think that was after Iron...
I think it was earlier. Chaplin.
Great movie, by the way. Anybody Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
It's Shane Black, who did Iron Man 3. Yeah. Anyway, I knew nothing about Iron Man, but after that movie, I knew what I needed to know.
And it was a good movie with a good story. You didn't have to know anything because they brought you up through it within the movie.
Now, what I will say is the charisma of Robert Downey Jr. Made that movie.
Yeah.
And there's a thing to be said, made the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe possible.
Well, I don't disagree. I mean, if you don't hit with that one, it's hard to hit with any of the rest of them because let's be honest. Then was the next one Thor?
No, I believe it was Captain America: First Avenger.
Okay, and that had again didn't know much about Captain America, but
what they did was they were like, hey, people know World War II.
Yeah,
let's put him in a historical setting. With a little bit of mystery,
which was completely right.
Because you gotta start getting like. I mean, if you think about from Iron Man 1 to Avengers 1, you have to figure out how to get people on board with crazy space shit, and you really don't have that much time. So you go from a dude flying around in a metal suit, and then the next movie is talking about ancient artifacts and Poland, and Hugo Weavy rips his face off.
And it wasn't a great movie.
It's pretty good. In terms of
it's good, but it wasn't. I wouldn't put it on the same tier as your Iron Man.
No, of course not.
Just the same as
it's not even the best
Thor #1.
It's not even the best Captain America movie.
Was not the best movie, but again took a character that I completely didn't care about.
See, I really like Thor 1. Kenneth Branagh.
I liked it too, but what I'm saying is it wasn't if Iron Man's your pinnacle,
Yeah.
the next two are down a little bit, but they
Probably
translated that into a 10-year plan that culminated with a couple of pretty fantastic movies.
Yeah. And then you have to get on. You have to
and brought people who aren't comic book geeks
brought the whole
into
world.
the fold.
Yeah.
It didn't bring just. It brought everyone in.
Yes,
everyone.
So, I just it's just very interesting.
But back to Dark Phoenix and back to X-Men for just a second. So, what's your favorite X-Men movie?
Probably First Class.
Not in terms of story, but in terms of like.
I'm going to ask you a question. Then change the parameters.
Like if you're gonna have to sit down and you have to watch an X-Men movie.
First Class.
Okay.
I don't know, because Logan is in there, right? I mean, that's technically an X-Men movie.
We'll put
Deadpool is. So are we just going with X-Men in the?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I was doing X 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Last Stand or First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark
certainly
Phoenix.
Not Apocalypse. Thank you, Poe Dameron.
You mean Ivan Ooze?
I guess I'd probably have to say First Class also.
Yeah, that's funny, because I guess the question would become is what happened. Because you've had 4 movies now with the same cast,
but the problem was for me is we just jammed characters in where they didn't belong.
But when it's a good story,
you
can overlook.
I can overlook that.
Yeah.
But at that point, I'm just like, this isn't how this happened. What's going on? What are you doing?
Well, I mean, I don't think it was necessarily supposed to be like canon. Dark Phoenix saga.
And that's my problem is it's okay to take the source material and retell it almost verbatim. I don't need Hush, the animated where you're going to snap a surprise ending on me, because that didn't add to that.
For sure.
I would say it actually detracted from it.
I don't think it did anything for it.
Yeah.
One way or the other. It's okay.
It just was. It's just this,
it's there.
And I've seen it once, and I won't revisit it. Correct. But I reread the Hush comics pretty regular.
Yeah. So I guess my only problem is like, if the best X-Men movie currently made today is X-Men: The First Class,
why do I have a problem with Dark Phoenix?
No, not even that. It's how did we get from it being the top to it not being the top? Because you still have all the characters there. The same Beast, the same Mystique, the same Charles, the same...
not the same Charles. This Charles is wildly different in this movie.
Well, the same person playing
I understand,
Charles Xavier.
But it's a wildly different incarnation of Professor X in this movie, in my opinion.
Well, I mean...
Because he is shady as all get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not... That turned me off pretty quickly.
I guess. I don't know. To me, it feels like
they may have tried to do too much.
Well,
like when you jump to the Days of Future Past, like you were saying, and I mean, now you're trying to include
you're talking about
everything.
The first 10 minutes of that movie are like the old X-Men, like Bobby and Storm and Ellen Page.
You're talking Days of Future.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're fighting like the Sentinels, and they're trying to get away from like internment camps and stuff, and then it kind of looks like Terminator, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh hey, Logan's been teleported into the past, and it's like 1970, and and it's like, oh, and by the way, that 1970 is where X-Men: The First Class takes place, but these two people never meet, and you're like, if you're not a comic book fan, you're fucking out, because you're like, I just can't even make sense of this for it to be a good movie.
Yeah,
I know,
and I think there's a way to satisfy both camps, and
sure.
Iron Man's probably a great example of that.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you guys think of it before we head off anywhere?
I really
else?
liked it.
I dug it probably more so than the Breakfast IPA.
Okay. So we'll talk about Spider-Man Life Story number 6, the 2010s, right? Is that what we're doing?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I stopped reading about
You
70. I
Did
still
you
picked
pick
it
them
up.
up?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'll see what you guys say as to whether I go back and reread them all
need to
now.
read this one, at least.
I think it's worth going and reading just because it does tell a really good, complete story. Now, I had some problems with this one.
Okay.
But I'll start with the positive, though. I mean, I did feel like there were a lot of cool moments in this. Basically, Peter goes to space. There's what is it that's getting ready to explode?
I don't know.
Yeah,
It doesn't really matter.
something's
Bad shit's going to happen in space.
I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
No. It's old man Spider-Man right now.
I mean,
Peter knows
time he went to space.
I mean, Peter knows the end is coming, and
Yeah.
and there's these dream sequences with Mary Jane that were really pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because at this point he is a very, very, very old man.
Yeah, he's probably in his
and
60s.
These dream sequences take it back to
when he
that
was like
teenage with him.
very, very, very old, dude. I'm not that far away from it. Let's stay away from the very, very, very old.
I mean, he looks very old in that. I mean, whatever. Anyway.
Well, what would he be at this point? He's in his 70s, right?
No, okay, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
70s feels a little better to
Yeah.
be old.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But yeah, the dream sequences, because she would always say to Peter, face it, Tiger, you've hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And his dream sequence with her there at the very end of his life, he says that to her, you're my jackpot.
Yeah.
So it was like that's really cool. And the symbiote ends up in space with him there through the jackal. No, not jackal. Craven, the hunter.
Craven.
And the symbiote even helps him keep the explosion down by spreading itself out. So the symbiote ends up killing itself there at the end too. So there were a lot of good things in this issue. The one thing that bothered me, and it shouldn't because I like this character, I didn't need Miles Morales in this. This was Peter's story. To me, this was Peter's story, and I didn't need you want to do Miles and take him through his all of his years, fine.
Yeah,
but this should have just been Peter's story. That was my only fault with it.
I'll agree to that.
Have we changed places?
I know. It feels. Now, I mean, there's a little bit weird. I mean, it's Dr. Octopus that has taken over. The only reason Miles is around is that Dr. Octopus took over his body instead. I mean, because in the normal Spider-Man universe, it's he becomes the superior Spider-Man and takes over Peter's body for a while, but. Yeah, that was my only. I mean, I liked everything about it. I just
thought that was
seems
unnecessary.
really weird that I would say that, but I didn't need to see Miles in this.
Well, I think one thing's very clear. This isn't Spider-Man 310 level, but I mean those dream sequences like you were talking about. One thing is very, very clear: Chip Zdarsky knows how to write Spider-Man, or at least Peter Parker. And
absolutely,
it'd be really interesting to know if,
I think you could just stop it. Chip Zdarsky knows how to write.
Right. Specifically.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I took away. There were
overall, what did you...
I mean, there were bumps in the road from the whole series, because, I really wasn't super okay with, the political stuff in the first one with, Captain America.
That's what turned me off.
And then...
And they kind of went...
Oh, yeah.
Totally away from that.
For sure.
Other than the first issue, it really doesn't...
And there was I think one of them was the 90s or the 80s was just whatever, but they've been okay. They've been pretty good, I guess.
Yeah,
and it's a cool concept as well.
Yeah, but this one specifically, I think. I mean, it's. I really liked it. Yeah,
I did too. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about, because the Peter parts of it and him there at the very end of his life. I mean, what a perfect way to end the spy. If he really did age, what a cool way to end his story. But,
and I think I don't know why they're. I hope they do this for other long-standing characters.
If it could be done well, I could definitely see.
And maybe not even long-standing characters, just characters who could live several decades. Like, I mean, if you did a Logan one of these and started it like in 1860 or something, and then jumped to like.
Or how cool would it be
just
to have
depends.
a Batman of this?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
To where you see him progress from the young man to where then it's more like Dark Knight Returns, Batman to the very end of that. I mean, not
which we kind of saw in, what was it, Annual number 2?
Yeah, Date's Night, Last Rites.
That's right.
Yeah. And would they include the like Batman Beyond in it? Would he end up training that Terry McGinnis? I mean,
it's a good thought.
Did you hear what that people are trying to do now? They're trying to get Keaton to do a live action Batman Beyond movie where he plays old Batman. Awesome.
I might actually get behind that,
because if it was a Batman Beyond, kind of thing where he's training that next generation.
I could almost get behind that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be too. Plus, just to see live action Batman Beyond costume.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so Doomsday is the next one I want to talk about.
Doomsday Clock number 11. Right?
Yeah, we only have one more, which is good. November.
Maybe.
Who cares?
That's what Jeff John said on Twitter the other day.
Yeah.
Was November. Didn't say which week in November, but just said November.
Whatever the last Wednesday of November is, they'll push it probably as far as...
My biggest problem is if they push it in December, it will be 3 years since number 1 came out.
Which, here's the problem I have with this series. Because it's great. The art's great. The writing's great. The story's pretty great.
Yeah.
The problem is it releases once every 6 months, 8 months, once a year.
It's 2 to 4.
But that's too long in between. And you can't tell me you don't already have these drawn, written, printed, and ready to release. And if you don't, DC, you're dumb.
Yeah.
And I still think DC, you're dumb, because who else is reading this at this point? I mean, I was so stoked about this. I'm like, oh my God, this is the second coming of Watchmen. This is wonderful. This is great. And now I'm just like, I don't even care to talk about it. I'll talk about it when I can read the trade paperback and it all makes sense, because I don't have to, oh yeah, a couple months ago that happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to step on your...
No, I'm kind of right there with you. Really, the only thing I wrote down is I felt like this issue was better than the last couple.
This has been one of the better ones so far. I mean,
well, since those first
Mime and the
3 or
Marionette.
4 that were like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. This was better.
Yeah.
But man, you do have so much trouble connecting it because of all the time in between. And
we're trying not to do book reports, but it's really hard not to just do a book report on this book, because it's like, I can't really put it into context because I can't remember everything that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wrote down, we learned that...
Yeah, give us the book report. Cause,
we learned that Veidt was actually behind the firestorm explosion in Moscow.
Shocking.
And, Superman shows his face again and sets up a showdown between Superman and Dr. Manhattan. The thing is, it's like,
that would have meant something months ago to me.
Yeah, years ago.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago, dude.
Yes.
December 2017.
And it's so sad, because it's so slavishly devoted to trying to recapture the Watchmen universe, and does a fantastic job of doing that.
He does a pretty good job of doing it.
Man, the art is just fantastic.
Well, and the cool thing about this is actually not the artist from this. This is actually whoever did the cover art for Rebirth, like the actual DC Rebirth comic. But
which wasn't, I don't remember it being all that mind-blowing.
No, I mean, it was just the setup for the button,
yeah,
or whatever. Yeah, but
just it feels like DC's really stumbled with the whole button thing. Man, I was so excited with Rebirth, and now they've just kind of like given up on it. I don't know.
I think they just realized that it didn't work out the way they wanted it to.
But it could have.
If they would have put the books out on time.
Yeah.
But basically, just I can't wait for Told to come out so that we can
reread it all and give it a fair review. Because that's just where I'm at with it.
Honestly, for me, it's just so we can stop complaining about how it isn't out yet. Because, like, December 2017. Like,
right after we started this podcast.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, I wasn't even going to review it today. Yeah. That's where I was with it.
Yeah, I get you. And like I said, the reason why I did want to talk about it is because the book is good. It's just I can't put my stock into it because I know I'll forget about it by the time the next one comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just it's sad to say.
So hopefully it'll be something we can take some time and read all 12 once they're out, and
I think that's
try to come up with a more fair review of it. So you guys were talking about the political thing. Did that pull you out of this at all? Because it did kind of make me mad in this one a little bit, because it would. I mean, just listen to this, and I mean, you ought to be able to hear. I mean, the White House said, "Thank you to the tremendous Wonder Woman who has stood up to conducts, or however you say that, evil leader and his very bad metahumans. Black Adam is a huge terrorist threat to the world, but America will win. The bigger they are, the bigger they'll fall. It's harder, Mr. President." So, I mean, they're clearly taking shots at Trump
for sure
with the quotes there and stuff. And again, I mean, I don't know. I just don't. That's not necessary. I mean, I get you're trying to
be topical.
You're trying to put Putin in here, and because
if you're going to be topical, put the books out on time.
Yeah.
But there you go.
That was my.
I thought that was. I just said it was unnecessary.
It is unnecessary.
It was unnecessary, but it was my least problem with the book.
I mean,
the problem was I think it was the last book I read, because my give a damn's just broken with it, and it shouldn't be, because it deserves better.
So we're gonna move on to a new beer and a new book.
Servaes again. We're finishing up our round of Servaes beers here from Shawnee, Kansas. This is the watermelon daiquiri.
Nice.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know. I hate watermelon, so hopefully it's delightful.
So the next book we're going to talk about, as you can see over here, is Old Man Quill number 9. So after this, we only have 3 issues left. We have 10, 11, and 12. I don't really have much to say on this other than there is no way it ends good. Like, Star-Lord is definitely going to fucking die. There's no way he's living.
I've got a couple thoughts. So it's been pretty action-packed.
These last couple of issues.
Yeah. I mean, the Hulkbuster versus the church.
It's delicious.
That's yummy.
And him not being able to really figure out how to run the Hulkbuster armor. Was it Herbie or whatever? The
fantastic.
He's like, no, I can't actually help you maim humans. Can you operate the airlocks? Can you do that? Slices some dude in half in the airlock. But
I would. But I mean,
here's my bigger question though.
Okay,
is the problem with this book that we know the formula? So we know the formula with the Old Man books is issue 7. you're going to have something groundbreaking happen. And is it the familiarity that breeds contempt with this book? Like, okay, we knew it was going to be 7 before. Oh, and here's the surprise. It's like, bless you. Did you guys see The Sixth Sense?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Great M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah.
The rest of his movies also, some of them pretty great, but I think they kind of, I don't know that I watched one of his movies past that and wasn't looking for the twist.
Yeah.
Because he'd already set that up. I'm going to have a twist in each movie.
Yeah.
And so you spend so much time in the movie waiting for that twist that you forget that it's a good movie to watch. So are we seeing that with Old Man Quill, or is it just, it's not good? Or is it a combination of the both?
I think it's kind of both. I think this is definitely lower than Old Man Hawkeye.
Oh yeah, that's good.
It is.
But I mean,
Yeah, and that's what I wrote down. It's never reached the level of Old Man Hawkeye, but it's still enjoyable. Like I still like it. It's just you might be onto something there where we kind of know what's happening, what's going to occur. I mean, they're all old to begin with,
right?
And by the time we reach issue number 12, they're probably going to croak out.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
But damn it, when the old man Daredevil comes out and he's training blind old man Hawkeye, better believe that'll be on my pull list. Because
to quote you, this book's a Jason Statham movie. Just take it for what it is and enjoy it.
I'm trying. I'm trying. So the Hulkbuster versus the Church. He's lost the ultimate nullifier, so Galactus is still going to be a giant problem because the Church seemed to be the big problem, but really Galactus is coming.
Mm-hmm. Galactus is coming.
Yeah,
Galactus
Winter is coming. And then Doom is going to take care of it personally.
Yeah.
So that might be interesting.
Yeah. But my guess is 11 and 12 will be knockout issues.
I hope so, because to this point, it felt like, at least with Old Man Hawkeye, that I was excited about each issue. And this one, I'm like, okay, I'm going to
I think the thing with Old Man Hawkeye is you knew he wasn't going to die at the end, because it's set before Old Man Wolverine, and he's in Old Man Wolverine. So you knew this is more of a journey than we're going to...
Just think it was better written.
I mean, probably, but...
it's just my opinion. It was better written. Because even though it was kind of a revenge fantasy, I'm going to go through and I'm going to take out all the old team, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It was still very interesting in between, and we looked for Easter eggs and stuff, and this is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So, Eric, you got to let me start with this one.
Alrighty.
I have a quote to read, and I'm sure you wrote down the same thing. Maybe not.
I don't know.
Conan cared little for his new allies. The lone exception was the diminutive warrior from Pabst. Conan already had his hopes set on acquiring a set of sneak blades.
That's pretty good.
I know.
That's pretty good, man.
It's really good.
When I literally laughed out loud when I read that.
Sneak blades.
Yes, his own set of sneak blades. But what? It's not over?
It's not over. We thought this was. We thought number 5 was going to be it, because it
was
said,
supposed to be.
It said to be concluded, and then, back of the book says next issue.
Yeah,
some
Blood and Ice or something like that.
Yeah, Castle and Conan. It's.
I think it's going to be a little weird.
It's so over the top and ridiculous, but man, it's not Joker Dragon kind of, that far, but I mean, they're so they're fighting this huge monster. Wolverine can't crack through its skin. So he jabs his claws into the monster's skull, and then has Conan use a giant symbiote hammer,
Yeah,
and
this is a thing.
hits his elbows to jam them farther into the skull until the monster's skull, finally.
What does he
explodes.
say when it finally explodes?
I don't know. Somebody asked, like, what are we covered in?
Oh yeah, dead alien. Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, just splat. Yeah. Yeah. It's insane. It's just a crazy book.
So
But
they end up in
sometimes
the
that's fun.
They end up in the savage. They're all in the Savage Land at the end of the book, and they have a spell. Dr. Voodoo's there. He's going to teleport them out, and then
and the shit that Conan says about his magic. I can't. But he was talking about, like, I don't want none of your sorcery or something like that.
So they, 4 of them decide, hey, we're taking the easy way out of the Savage Land in Antarctica. Castle and Conan strap Castle's family because
in their
coffins, because remember back in issue 1 they were abducted, and that was why they got Punisher to end up.
So there's one big coffin and 2 little coffins,
and they just start. Conan and Punisher just decide to walk out of Antarctica together. Punisher's kind of interested in the whole Crom god of Conan. We'll just see what this Crom has in store for me, and they set off.
Thelma and Louise it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, what's up next? Yeah. So,
Die number 7.
Yes, die number 7. I feel like the dialogue in this specific issue was really good. I didn't want to write it down word for word because I feel like that's kind of boring. But the conversation with Chuck, what's that? Oh, some sound.
That looks
cosmic
delightful.
sound. We'll get that in a minute. But the conversation with Chuck after he beds the
High elf,
the elf queen. I thought it was actually a lot deeper than maybe it came off like in reading. Because he's like, how can you tell me what's real when we're here? How can you tell me she's any more real than you are? Kind of thing. And so it's kind of funny. Like, if we're on this space, if we're in this place, I mean, is real what you can just touch, and then everything else outside of this room, like.
I mean, so for the listener, they're in a D&D construct world that at one point was being run by one of their D&D friends.
Saul.
Not so much anymore.
Because they kind of murdered him. Yeah. But
so, what is real? I mean, you're in a fantasy land. You have your faculties about you, and you're in a fantasy land.
Yeah.
You're betting a queen of the elves, and you're like, you're not real.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what is real?
Yeah. And I thought that was just interesting that, we're just, I don't know. I like the dialogue quite a bit. So I thought this was a pretty good entry in the series.
So the thing with this book is, I like all the books so far. I mean, it's a good story. It's interesting. And I don't know that I can tell you exactly why. I mean, because the art is very stylized, but I like it in most places.
Yeah.
The writing's real good. The premise is fantastic. But I mean, if you just had to nail me down and say, what do you love about this book? I don't know that I could pin it down.
That's okay.
And I think it is sometimes. It's just like, hey, this is an enjoyable book to read.
Like Savage Avengers. Like, we know it's ridiculous.
I don't think this is ridiculous, though.
No, for sure not. No.
But it's hard for me to nail down what it is that keeps bringing me back to it.
Yeah. And it's probably just a combination of a lot of things.
That makes it good, yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably why you can't nail it down, because it's like, well, it's this, and it's partly this, and it's like, and then you got 5 or 6 different things going around in your head, and you're like...
I think it's probably the characters. If I had to be nailed down, because, who's the chick?
There's like...
Oh, okay, but in this particular story, remember Chuck grabs her journal and throws it down in some piss, and she's super mad, so she goes to Mistress Woe and says, "You need to teach Chuck a lesson." Well, that's dumb. She made a bad play there because now we're going to teach everybody a lesson. Yeah,
but I thought the dialogue right before that part, where learning something isn't.
Or knowledge isn't necessarily learning something.
No, it's like learning something isn't necessarily, or knowing, whatever it is.
Learning something isn't knowing something. It was something to that.
Yeah. Or knowing something isn't learning something. It doesn't matter. Something like that. But, it sounds like he's gearing up to do some potentially bad stuff. But, the dialogue in this was really... I keyed it on because it was...
But it just makes you wonder how this is going to end up. Who's going home? Who's not going home? I mean, because...
The problem is there's some people who don't want to go home.
Right. And that's why we're kind of split into two factions.
And I think that's interesting, is you talk about a world that you used to escape to as a child in your imagination. Now it's a real thing.
But I think that's a thing, though, dude. I mean, at some point, your life
is so bad that you would rather live in a fantasy world than live in this world?
Maybe not so bad, but, I mean, do you ever just kind of yearn for some adventure?
Sure, I think that's, somewhere in us.
Yeah. And so if
risk-taking.
Yeah, if your life is to the point where you're like...
I go to work, I come home, I go to work, I come home, I go to work,
all my needs are provided for, I'm in a good place, but man, it's fun to be out and to swing a sword or to cast a magic spell.
For sure.
Well, is the problem still that everybody has to go home or no one goes home?
Yes.
Is that okay? That's what I thought. I've read.
I think
1
all
through
the people
5.
alive have to.
Yes.
Right.
To want to go home.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's interesting because if you were given the choice to go to somewhere where all your needs are met, or to stay in a world that allowed chaos, which would you choose?
Yeah, so 2 different things. I mean, to stay in the real world and all your needs are met, or to go to a chaotic adventure world.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to visit on weekends.
Right. Well, I mean, like if we lived in a utopian society, people have said that the first thing that we would do is we'd rob banks. Not because we needed the money, because we wanted the adventure.
There's definitely something to that.
I think humans...
I don't think that's sour enough.
We're on to our next beer.
Sorry.
Sam Adams Cosmic Sour.
Limited release.
Just decided to give it a shot since
it's yummy, but it's more malty than sour to me.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. It's good, but it's not what I thought it was when...
And all Sam Adams beers have a very good malty base to them.
Yeah. Do they have some proprietary malt that they use, you think? Who knows?
I don't know. Write that down to research for the next one.
Do you have a Curse of the White Knight to put up there?
I do.
Awesome. Sweet. So our next book we're going to talk about is Curse of the White Knight.
No, I was just going to show both covers. Go ahead.
Oh. There we go. So I'm not sold on the past stuff with the bat skin whip and all that stuff. But if I push past all that I think there's something here. Like, it's going to take a few more issues to kind of know what's really going on. And I can understand why some people might not like it, because like it's really different from the first one, like a lot. Because I mean, in the first one, you're like, Batman's a bad guy and Joker's a good guy, and that's an interesting concept. In this one, you know, Batman's not a bad guy, and
but we find out
really sure that Azrael's a bad guy. But
the Wayne ancestor could end up being a bad guy if he screwed over the Azrael's ancestor, which is what, like, in the first issue, I was like, okay, what? How is this going to work? I mean, Azrael was a good guy with Wayne, the ancestors both worked together against Laffy.
Yes.
Yes. Whatever his name was.
Yes.
Laffy Arkham.
Yes.
And
ding. Spidey senses going off.
So, like, why would Azrael go after Batman? Well, okay. Well, we learn a little bit more here where Wayne could have screwed him out of land after they took back Gotham, which makes a little bit more sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not quite sold on the whole past business.
See, I'll give it another one, because I think if we look back at the pod, we were talking about Curse of the White Knight.
You wavered on a couple of issues of it too.
Well, you didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I wasn't reading it with you guys. Well, it never was. I didn't like it at all. I thought I liked the art. I think it's a really cool style.
Yes.
And I actually liked the writing too. It was the story that I had the problem with. I just didn't think it was a Joker
kind of
story.
Having the same problem now.
I'm having a problem with the story, and it's not so much the historical part of it. It's just I'm having a hard time just connecting with the story.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough.
And it's weird because I really like Sean Gordon Murphy quite a bit.
You just like Marvel now. It's fine.
Dude, I just like stuff that connects,
which I think we all do.
Yep.
So you had a book you want to talk about?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Talk about Guardians 8.
So we're in the midst of the Rocket.
Yeah. I still feel like you dropped off of this too soon. I especially think you would have liked this issue. Heart and humor, I feel like Donny Cates does that so well. Like, he can tell a heart-wrenching story, like in God Country, and he can do the humor well too.
Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're really onto something with that. I think that is his absolute strong suit, is either end of the emotional spectrum.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they come from the same place. Think about the best comedians in the world. They're all fucked up people.
Yeah, they're all pretty dark, yeah.
So you think about stuff that'll rip your heart out. That makes it really easy to make fun of things that just don't quite rip your heart out.
So Rocket is dying. He's all the experiments have caught up to him that were done to him, and we finally get to see like what happened to Rocket, how he started off his life, and then what happened to him, and now he's lost a ton of weight. He's losing hairs coming off in clumps and stuff, and I mean, it's like,
that's
holy
rough.
crap, and he's just screaming at Groot, like, after all I've done for the galaxy, why can't I just die in peace? Why are you here? Why can't you just let me be? And man, Groot gives it right back to him. And
since I am Groot with exclamation points.
Yeah, well, Groot can talk now because he's whole again.
Okay.
I don't think that was a Donny Cates thing. I think that happened before.
Well, I think originally Groot could talk.
Yes,
wasn't he like a villain originally?
Originally, yeah. But then 2 pages later, the rest of the Guardians have been captured, and Lockjaw, the Inhuman, the big dog of the Inhumans that can teleport people places, is with them. They've been captured by the Universal Church.
Yeah.
which already has Cosmo the.
Oh yeah,
it's
everywhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Which already had Cosmo the space dog captured, and this is 2 pages after this, just like screaming of Rocket. So Cosmo the space dog and Lockjaw reunite for the first time in a long time. Like, I have no idea when they met before, but Lockjaw, like, Cosmo immediately rolls over onto his belly for Lockjaw, and Lockjaw says to him, "Rise, honorable Space Knight. You show your belly to no one." Like,
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So, it was a definitely good issue all around. I'm going to keep probably giving them to you at some point. So
that's fine. It's the last official book we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Is going to be Sea of Stars number 3. So, are you on board for this?
I'm still pretty in on this one. I'm still enjoying it.
So, what do you like about it? Because what I wrote down after I read this was, I want to like it, but there's something making me not like it. So what's keeping you on that path? Because to me, I should like the book, but I don't.
I like the father and son aspect of it, and especially in this issue where, I mean, the son is just living it up.
I mean, it's very whimsical with him.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah.
He's
I need a cork shark,
and he still misses his dad. I mean, there's parts in there where he's like, but he's also out in space and just loving life.
Hey, he's just being a kid.
And then the dad is going through such shit to try to get back to his son. Like, I just like those two.
Yeah, the dichotomy of the kid who doesn't necessarily know he's in danger and is just trying to.
He's not.
Well,
because he's not, dude. Well, I mean, he punches a cork shark.
Across
Kingdom Come,
across space.
Yeah. That's not how you play tag.
This is, I don't know.
I've been lukewarm on this since the beginning, and
well, you didn't really like the art, right?
No, it wasn't the art. I don't know. I should connect with a father-son sort of.
Basically,
thing,
the same thing I said is you think you should like the book. I
just don't.
Well, it's not that I don't like. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I don't know. It just.
And again, I should like it because I have 2 sons, and if I were running a space freighter and a space whale, blows up my ship, and
the other thing is you don't want to think about that scenario of you having to go through literal fucking hell to try and save one of your kids.
But there's something about it that just doesn't connect.
Yeah,
and I think maybe it's what you were saying. I mean, it's very whimsical when it's the kid's turn to kind of tell the story, and it's dad eating a vine to try to find some oxygen.
I actually thought that was really kind of cool.
Yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't speak to me.
I don't know. I'll probably give it one more, but
I really like Jason Aaron. Everything I've read of his, I'm just. I was telling Brian the other day. I was going through my comics. Do you know who was writing the Doctor Strange that we really liked?
Like Donny Cates?
Nope. Jason Aaron.
Jason Aaron. Where all the magic gets evaporated away. That whole storyline.
That was Jason Aaron. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And did you know that Sex Criminals is Chip Zdarsky?
I did know that.
Yeah, I just realized that the other day. I was like, son of a bitch.
Well, it is kind of fun when you discover.
Overall, you liked it? Was it good?
I've only read the first story arc, but I liked it. I like it. It
was interesting. Yeah.
I mean, basically, it's a story about people who have sex, and then time slows down for them, and then they go and commit crimes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's this guy and this girl, and they fuck, and then time slows down for 4 hours, and then they go and rob banks and shit.
Already.
Yeah. I mean,
that works.
Right. But but you were saying though, it's funny how you
discover a writer or an artist that you like, and then you go back and look at other books you've been collecting before you knew who they were. I mean, I ran through that with Cullen Bunn. I was like, oh, picking up all these books that he writes. But with Jason Aaron, it seems like everything, past War of the Realms, I'm going back and finding stuff that he's written that I really like. And it's interesting.
Yeah.
Something else I think we all like. Well, I haven't really heard your take on it. But you mentioned earlier the Wolverine podcast on Stitcher.
Oh yeah.
So I know you were like the first one of us to take the leap and listen to it at all.
Actually, Mike was the one who, I mean, he mentioned it 3 or 4 times before I finally jumped on board.
I think he listened to it like right out of the gate.
Yep.
So I finally finished The Long Night, and I've started Lost Trail. How far have you made it?
I'm not done with the first one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so,
go. I
so
mean,
no
feel
spoilers.
free to. No, I mean,
because there's a pretty giant spoiler.
Oh, there's a huge spoiler. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But I mean, overall, just in terms of like thinking about both of them, I liked the first one more so far, but I think that's because it was
more of a mystery.
Yeah, and this is kind of a straight. I don't want to say it's straightforward, but it's.
There's some red herrings kind of thrown in, but
you can tell that there's a path.
Yeah.
Like I felt like in The Long Night, there's like 5 or 6 different things, and they all kind of converge in one night. Long night, haha, cute. Where this one is kind of like, all right, I've gone here to point A, and now we're going to point B and point C and point D and E, and I don't know. I mean.
It's still wildly enjoyable.
Yeah.
I like the theater of the mind. It was funny. I shouldn't even bring it up. Who was it that tweeted out about the movies and the TV shows? And they were basically saying, those are all great, and I don't want to diminish them. No. But when I read a comic,
I just saw that the other day.
It's my imagination takes over and paints this reality.
Yeah, it was like a movie plays in my head. And,
yeah,
and I don't remember who that was, but I did see that.
And to me, I mean, that's perfectly. That's why when we talk about movies and TV shows and stuff, and they're great, I still love the source material. I still want to read a comic and just enjoy it that way.
Yeah.
I don't have to have a movie of X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, for sure.
And then these are pretty cool because you do have that frame of reference. Like, this is a podcast, but what Wolverine
should
you
look
have
like.
what your Wolverine probably looks different as you're listening to it. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's just the theater of the mind, and it's a very interesting media to put that out there and enjoy and let your imagination go wild.
Well, and I think it's very interesting that if you look at podcasts, in the 20s and 30s when there wasn't TV, you had radio shows, radio dramas, and plays and stuff like that on the radio.
40s and 50s. Because not everybody had a TV.
And then it all went away. And now people don't want to watch TV. People want
what's old is new again.
And like people like vinyl records again. And it's just really funny to me how if something is truly great, it may fade away, but it never dies. And I think that's an interesting concept to think about.
Yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of it. I mean, we went on a road trip to Memphis, and the kids just ate it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's very good. And they're perfectly length, too.
Oh, yeah, because you
like
don't need
35, 40 minutes an episode.
I think it's like 24 to 30 minutes. I mean, it's just the right little bit to keep you. It's like the old school, serial movies.
Yeah, for sure.
Where Lucas, came up with the Star Wars concept.
Yeah, like Flash Gordon or stuff like that. So, all right. So, what do we think for our beer of the pod here? Unless you guys have anything else.
I don't think so. Oh, I did want to throw in, we talked about it before we started recording, but, and I should have thrown it in at one of the Gary Dugan points.
Yeah.
So, Dead Rabbit, we really started enjoying that. We had issue number 1, issue number 2, and then they got sued by like a bar in New York for using the name Dead Rabbit.
Which is
so they had to
insane.
cancel the run of it. Well, it's coming back now. I think the first issue comes out in October, like October 2nd. It's Dead Eyes now instead of Dead Rabbit. Issue number 1 will be exactly and issue 2 be exactly the same as the 2 issues we already have. But then 3 will pick up with new story content.
That's pretty awesome.
I'm
glad that Gary Dugan decided to stick with it and didn't give up.
Because it was a good story.
It's an awesome concept. I mean,
it's very good. Yeah,
watching for serial killers, as you greet people at the Walmart. I mean,
it's pretty fantastic, and I'm glad they're bringing it back. I think it's silly. I mean, if you open another bar down the street with the name Dead Rabbits, okay, I get it. If you have a comic book that has nothing to do with your bar name, that's just silly to me.
Yeah.
But whatever. I'm glad we're getting it back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, very much so.
All right. So, beer of the pod?
Watermelon daiquiri for me.
It's hard not to say the watermelon daiquiri.
It's easy to say the watermelon daiquiri.
That was really good.
And I hate watermelon, so it should have not been. Yeah,
but it is.
Yeah.
Now, if we could just get a chocolate one, because then it would be like, because it did kind of taste like a Jolly Rancher.
Yeah.
And then it'd be right up your alley.
But not an asshole.
Alley or ass.
All right. So that's going to conclude 55. Links to our social media will be down in the description below. Please like, rate, subscribe. Just contact us if you have questions, concerns, want to tell us how
Awesome we are.
historically inaccurate we are with all of our information.
Or want us to review a comic.
Yeah. Or if there's specific questions you guys want to ask or anything, just let us know. Like I said, if you are getting this on SoundCloud, all the links are there. If you're getting this on YouTube, all the links will be in the description below. And that'll conclude this issue.
All right.
Hashtag break free.